So yeah, we live. We would share and then
Mm-hmm.
okay. 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 We have a few people joining in, so would maybe just
Mm-hmm.
take a minute to share, and then we were going to carry on with the today's conversation. Yeah, we have a few people joining, so would
Okay.
No, let's give it a few more seconds. It's not a minute. Um, okay. I think we can start. We have about 7 or 8 people on already, so it
Yeah, that's
might
good.
be it might be a good place. Yeah, it might be good to start now.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. Again, it's always a delight to have you here. Today, we are talking about the practice of democracy in Africa, and this is in context of the recent thwarted coup d'etat in Benin Republic. So, our focus is going to be on this country in particular, and then to discuss whether democracy is an ideal that Africa is supposed to uphold, and if it's something that we are naturally inclined to practice. Um, we have different views on this, and we will be grateful for people who will want to comment to share their ideas on this topic. If it's something that interests you, you can leave a comment, and we'll be happy to answer. If you are so willing to come on live and share your ideas, we'll be more than welcome to do so as well. Again, if our topics platform interests you, please go ahead, like, share, and comment. It helps us. It helps us with the algorithm. It helps us reach more people. Maybe not to waste people's time. I think maybe we'll just dive in. You heard about the coup d'etat in Benin. You heard about the actions of um, friendly states, namely Nigeria and other states in the ECOWAS, and some involvement of France as well. Um, what were your initial thoughts given the recurrent um, occurrence of coup d'etats, particularly in West Africa and Francophone Africa? Is it something that shocked you, or is it something that we're all too familiar with?
I mean, yeah, I think there was a little bit of shock on my part because it wasn't like there was anything really going on in Benin, right?
Mhm.
It was relatively stable and minus the insecurity around the northern part where they have a border with Nigeria and the other Sahel countries, it was relatively stable. Elections don't come up until next year, I believe, which is usually something that pushes the military to kind of step in when there's elections and then there's violence and there's protests and there's disagreements between leaders as to who won and who didn't. So it was a relatively stable and quiet. And yes, I was quite surprised that this was happening. And again, my shock or surprise might have been my lack of attention on that region. Even though they've been really, I mean, relatively not a few. There've probably been a lot of coup d'etats in that region. The last one, which is from Guinea-Bissau, which just happened earlier in December, right? But I
Mhm.
thought it was done and dusted. I did not believe that there was another one that was just brewing, And as soon as Guinea-Bissau kind of settled, the dust kind of settled, Benin kind of, took over December 7th. So yeah, it was kind of a shock. I mean, there was Mali, which, I mean, two
Yeah.
coup d'etats in Mali, 2020, 2021.
2021. Yeah.
Guinea Conakry, 2021, Burkina Faso 2022, that brought in Traore, who is well loved. Chad 2021, Niger 2023. Of course, Sudan has been, they've had their own thing going on for quite a while. And then Guinea-Bissau in December, and then December 7th, Benin. Yes, so it's a long list of coup d'etats happening in the West African part of Africa, which you know I think begs the question as to what exactly might be going on in that area. And again, just like you indicated, Ghana, what we have noticed is that these coup d'etats are happening mostly in the French colonies. So Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, Benin, um, 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 uh, Guinea, and so it requires a little bit of conversation as to why is it particular in the French colonies as opposed to the other English speaking colonies or the Portuguese colonies in the area. So I think that is definitely a conversation that we would have in the course of this program. Why is it happening mostly in and the French speaking countries? Yeah. So yeah,
Hmm.
I would say surprise, but
Yeah.
not surprise, because a lot
Not
has
surprised.
been going on in that area, and it was just a matter of time before it moved to Benin, and probably a matter of time before the other countries who haven't experienced anything like this
Right.
might unfortunately have to experience something. Nigeria, particularly, I think, holds a unique position in this area because again they are, I guess, the regional power.
Hmm.
Um, Both economically and militarily speaking. They are part of the ECOWAS, which is the regional economic organization in that area, right? So Nigeria too is dealing with a lot of unrest,
Terrorists. Yeah.
jihadist terrorism in the northern part and the south. There's rampant kidnapping and abuse. I was listening to the radio the other day with my son. We're driving out, and on the news they were saying that 200 students had been kidnapped,
Yeah.
and he was listening to this and I wondering how is this. He was asking me, how is it possible? Is there no police, no military, nothing? How do you lose 200 students
Hmm.
in a day? So this is what is going on in Nigeria. And again, we have disagreements as to why Nigeria would intervene, or how they did, or where they should be
Yeah.
focusing on. Again, that is a conversation that we can have, right? But again, I'll let you tell me what
Absolutely.
you thought when you heard the news of the coup
Yeah.
d'etat.
Yeah. For me, kind of similar to yours, shocked but not shocked. We all know this region. You have listed the countries that have been through coup d'etats in the last 5 years. It's been recurrent in that particular region. So it wasn't any surprise to me. But again, Benin had kind of been like a stable democracy. If you ask me, you've never
Mm-hmm.
heard of any insurgents there. Sorry, you've never heard of any post-political violence and stuff like that. They've been kind of fairly stable. So the region, it's not quite surprising, but the particular country was a surprise to me for because as far as I can remember in the news, I think that's the first time they are making it to the region of an attempted coup d'etat.
Right.
It wasn't successful, so I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't say it was a coup d'etat, but they did attempt
Mm-hmm.
to. So that tells you the level of risk that exists
Yeah.
in that region.
Right.
They are all prone, and I know in the second year we're going to be trying to decipher exactly why this region is very prone to recurrent coup d'etats, attempted and successful ones. We have a few countries that have been overthrown, and we have current leaders who are as a result of coup d'etats. So
Mm-hmm.
there's some in West Africa, there was some in Gabon,
Mm-hmm.
In Central Africa. I'm sorry, there
Mm-hmm.
was in Gabon there was a coup d'état there, but it's far and few in between. Nothing to compare with West Africa. So um, um, I think in discussing with other people, the things that keeps coming up is the economic situations of this country, the rise of terrorism, particularly from the Sahel area, the rise
Mm-hmm.
of Al Qaeda linked jihadist links group. So there's definitely um, a, a terror component. There might be a religious component as well.
Mm-hmm.
An economic factor is
Mm-hmm.
something that we're going to talk about. A lot of these countries are really emerging, like the uh, third world really struggling. Some of them are trying to come out of poverty.
Right.
Not much different from Cameroon, where we are from, not much different from Gabon. But um, it still begs the question: why is it that other poor countries are not experiencing coup d'états like some other poor countries? I think it's so yeah. There's terror. There's economic. I think a religious component to it as well. I don't know if I think economic is tied to the level of unemployment too. So
Mm-hmm.
all those things we are going to be talking about. Um, um, we we talked about the terrorism. Okay, there's the Al Qaeda backed group. I think what that was one of the main reasons that was cited by the guys who led the coup. Um, with the prominent leader, I don't know if it's a colonel or what, Colonel Tigray.
Right.
They cited the failure of the government to be able to quell the insurgency in the northern part of Benin. And if you look at the map, Benin is surrounded by Niger, it's surrounded by Nigeria to the east, and then maybe Togo to the west,
Mm-hmm.
and Burkina Faso to the northwest. So there's a lot of terror happening in the Niger area, Mali area, and that's one of the main reasons that was cited by the attempted coup d'etat planners as a reason to take over. So we can delve that. Do you think terrorism is playing a big role? Um, we used to we focus mostly on Boko Haram and the ISWAP, which is Hamburg in Nigeria, Cameroon in particular. So we know
Right.
that, but there seems to be a lot of terror-related activity in this region that kind of spurred this attempted coup.
So
You,
I mean, they've been complaints about the proliferation of weapons in this area, and of course the proliferation of terrorism in this area. We know that once Al Qaeda and ISIS took hold in Libya,
hmm
we know that weapons have been flowing in towards the Sahel
Yeah,
area.
to the
Again,
south.
it's hard to not connect certain dots. There's the religious factor, which you made very clear, and the willingness or desires to set up Islamic states and Islamic regions. There's that motivation, and that's why Al Qaeda is forming subsidiaries in the area. That's why ISIS too is taking hold. And with Libya being what it is today, weapons flow from Libya
Right.
down to the Sahel, and that is how they finance and support and arm these terrorist groups. We also know, if you do follow the news, that even when Buhari was president, he did
hmm
complain about the proliferation of weapons
Right.
from Ukraine. I don't know if you remember him coming out and stating, and again, not just him, a lot of the African leaders and those who keep an eye on the proliferation of weapons would tell you that a lot of the weapons down from Ukraine is being sold in the black market and
Right.
finding themselves around this area, because terrorist groups, I mean, with all the finances they have, they buy weapons and then they ship it down to us. And that is what is really pushing the insecurity in these areas, right? And then again, some of these governments are, again, these are poor, really poor countries, probably not enough money to fund health and education, talk less of arming their military, or to fight these terrorists, right? We, most of the time, terrorists are even well more more better armed,
Yeah.
more better armed than the national than the soldiers in these areas. I know that there's situations where Boko Haram attacks and the military really is powerless
It's good.
because
Yeah.
their weapons do not match the weapons that these terrorists are carrying, right? So it's hard to not connect the dots when you talk about why there's a lot more of this happening
Right.
in this region. We could also talk about the disgruntlement that most of these French colonies have with their colonial masters.
Mm-hmm.
These countries got their independence what around the 1960s and later on, but they
Mm-hmm.
still remain territories of France. They call them extended French territories, right? And again, the
Mm-hmm.
French government still has a lot of power and control over these territories.
Mm-hmm.
This now means that they have leaders who are subordinate or who are more like puppets of the French government, influenced a lot by the French
Mm-hmm.
government. And because the French government has had military bases in these areas for a long time, with the intention to fight this terrorism, right? But at the end of the day, not a whole lot is done. The terrorists keep getting stronger. They keep taking territory. They keep killing innocent
Mm-hmm.
civilians. And at the end of the day, soldiers are disgruntled. I know the coup plotters in Benin did say that the government is not paying attention to what is going on in the northern area where
Right.
these Al Qaeda affiliates are operating, right? Either paying less attention to that, or not providing the resources that the soldiers need, or when soldiers die, they are not given the kind of honor that
Right.
that is due, right? So for this reason, soldiers are disgruntled, and that's why you see these coup d'etats happening here and there. And again, the coup plotters will always tell you, we are doing this because we don't think that this government is taking this seriously. Burkina Faso, it was the same thing. The complaint was that we had French military bases all over the place, but yet terrorism was still too rampant,
Mm-hmm.
right? And these are again, it's a list of factors, and each one is interrelated and interconnected to the other. Again, talking about the disgruntlement with the French. Now, Russia and China seem to be getting a lot of sway in most African countries. They bring investment, they provide military assistance, intelligence, and things like that, right? So these countries are switching alliances from France
Mm-hmm.
towards China and Russia. And two, this is one of the reasons. If you notice, Burkina Faso, once their coup, once they succeeded in their coup and set up a good system, they switched over from France back towards Russia. Same thing with Chad and Niger and Sudan. So you see, a
Right.
lot of this is geopolitics, where there's like we're French. We don't really care about what you do here. We want other partners as opposed to having
Mm-hmm.
former colonial masters remain dominant in our area. So this too is one of the reasons why we see a lot of this happening. And the unique thing about the French is that they left, but they never left.
Mm-hmm.
The British left and left. The Portuguese left and but the French left, but they were always there in their colonies, always influencing, always controlling,
Mm-hmm.
always
Mm-hmm.
manipulating. And I think we've gotten to a point where the people in these countries are saying no to France and no to the manipulation. And this is where we find ourselves. The civilian governments, of course, are motivated by self-interest and are usually brought into power by their connections to the French. And this military, the military, they are saying no, we're done with that, and we need to kind of look to a different direction to improve the state of these countries, right? And again, that's why we see a lot of this happening. That is my understanding of why this might be happening.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have other reasons to kind of add to
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah, you put forward a very strong argument, but I would like to see the argument pressed forward more with how the French is influencing the countries. I know they still have the franc that most of these countries use, and they're using the French Reserve Bank. From what I've learned, is these countries willingness to use the French Reserve Bank as their reserve. So it's not a French. So, but for sure, there is a connection. All of these are mostly French colonies. A lot of these countries are mostly Islam, with the tendency to rise, or the propensity for Islamists and jihadists to be able to rise there. So there is some correlation there, but I would like to be a more established causation. But there is it's not a stretch to say that France has been involved in all this country. Religion is another component to add. Economics, these countries are generally very poor. They are trying to get out of the situation. So I'd like to explore that more. Hopefully, we can get more details of how France actively influences these countries, uh, why they are switching allegiance. Um, um, but I can see all the connections there. France is involved in none of them. They are former French colonies, and most of them. I think it's only Nigeria that's really, maybe Nigeria, Liberia, Sierra Leone. Those are a few English speaking that have Anglo-Saxon um, background. Um, you don't hear so much about coup d'états in those countries. But you do hear mostly in French-speaking countries. So I'm sure there is some correlation there. I would just like to maybe explore more what exactly is the French influence? What is it that they are doing and making these countries more prone to this recurrent coup d'état? Because it's unfortunate that it seems to happen more in this region. Um, in your opinion, um, what is the role of insiders in this coup d'etat? You did have a picture of Tigray there, who apparently was high up in the security um, management of the current president. He's been seen in pictures several times with the president, President Talon, but he has now fled the country. Reports say he's in neighboring Togo. And how are these people who are supposed to be in charge of security of the highest office of the country, how they somehow involved in planning coup d'etat, in effect having a mutiny? I don't know if you can hear me. Hello? I can't hear you. I don't know what happened. I think we lost accent there for a little bit. I'm not sure what's happening to his network. I don't know what's happening to you. I don't know. I'm not sure Asan can hear me. Oh, that's crazy. Hey,
I am not sure
I
what
can, I can
went
hear
on there.
you. Maybe did you mute?
No, I'm not. Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you, but
Yeah, you want to check your sound?
uh,
Still can hear you.
no. What about now? Nothing. How did I? No, now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me now?
No. And check your
Uh,
microphone. Mic is muted.
I
I
am not
can't
sure.
hear you.
Now, no. Uh, I am not sure what the problem
No.
is.
My volume is maximum, but I cannot hear you.
It might just be on my end. I don't think it's anything to do with you. Any luck? No
No.
audio.
You want to see if you're selecting the correct mic?
That's what I'm trying to do. Any luck? No.
Because you are not mute, but I can't hear
Yeah,
you.
I'm not mute, but I'm not sure why I can't. This thing. I am not sure what the problem is gonna.
I don't know if you can kick me out and then let me come back in and see if that helps.
Uh okay. No.
No.
And again, I'm not. Let's see if I can hear myself.
Hmm.
No. And again, I'm not. Okay, you know
I
what?
can.
Why don't you go
Oh,
out and then come back in?
my mic seems to be working, as I can see here.
No. And again, I'm not. Okay, you know what? Why don't you go out and then come back in?
My mic seems to be working.
No. And again, I'm not. Okay, you know what? Why don't you go out and then come back in?
My mic seems to be working.
No. And again, I'm not. Okay, you know what? Why don't you go out and then come back in?
My mic seems to be working.
I think it's on your end. Just you. Good. Like you have to kind of leave. Okay. Excuse me. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry we ran into some.
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah, I think it just needed you to kind of step out of the thing and get a new link, because I think that's what I did. My internet kind of, I don't know if it went off. I'm not sure what
Hmm.
happened. So yeah, we've lost we've lost some time here. Anyway, um, yeah, sorry guys. I think
That happens.
yeah, we'll just pick up. Even though I think a lot of people probably got frustrated and left, but it's fine.
Yeah. So we just continue, right?
Right. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. We're talking about the intersection between politics and religion and French involvement, particularly as former colonial masters in this country. There seems to be some level of correlation. I'm still trying to understand what exactly that entails, but it's very obvious that most of these countries are former French colonies. A lot of these countries are majority Muslims. A lot of these countries are highly involved in somewhat the rise of Islamist terrorism. So there's a level of correlation there, but right now it's probably too it's underdeveloped for my own understanding, my own interest. So I think it's something I need to dig on more and know what exactly it is. But again, this begs the question: if democracy is really an African thing, or is it really a West African thing, if you want to be precise, because it seems to be the region that's most affected by um, um, recurrent coup d'etat. So if someone poses that question, it's like, look at you. Every now and then, you guys have coup d'etat in West Africa, in one country or the other in West Africa. Is this really an African thing? Um, are you guys just adopting some Western ideology, some Western system of governance? Are you guys have you guys been able, after 60 years, I think is the average for most independent African countries, after 60 years, and you guys still have a recurring coup d'etat, have you guys been able to transition from your usual tribal, um, chief-like, fawn-like in the northwest of Cameroon way of ruling through um, lineage, not necessarily through the one man, one vote system? What is your response if someone brought that kind of criticism to the recurrent coup d'etats in this part of the continent?
But again, just not. I think democracy is a foreign concept. It's
Yeah.
not an African concept. I think that is the first place to start. Democracy is not really an African concept. This is a
Mm-hmm.
westernized concept. And again, let's before the British and the French and the Americans got to where they are today. These people have been as a nation for how 350 years plus.
Mm-hmm.
The French Empire has been an empire for a long time. The British Empire. So these are people who have taken time to build a system that seemed to work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And now they are pushing this system to Africa and to other parts of the world um who are not used to it. First of all, it's not part of our culture that everyone has a voice and that everyone has an equal say, one vote, count. This is not an African concept. Africa is a, how you call it, it's hierarchy
Hierarchical.
and hierarchical system. Just check check the your home, for example, the family home, in a typical family home in Africa. The head is obvious. The head is the father, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's obvious. And Even before the father passes away, you already know who
With
is
next
taking
chapter, yeah.
over the responsibilities when he's gone, right? And his authority does not fade out because he's old or because no, his authority fades out when he dies, right? And that is a concept. That is how we've known how to govern. We have chiefs, and those chiefs are head of the village. And
Mhm.
that is how they've governed from time immemorial. So 60 years, averagely, somebody said if you put an averagely, it's about 30 years, it's not 60. Average for all African countries, how long
Mhm.
they've been, averagely is about 20, 25 years. That is not enough time for a concept to be accepted and to be implemented perfectly. And that's why you see from time to time there are coup d'etats or there's attempted coup d'etats. I mean, take not Nigeria. Nigeria is stable now, not because they've not been coup d'etats.
They came to
I mean, they've
military
been
rule in
coup
the
d'etats,
90s.
military rules back to back until recently. So it's a young democracy, if you want to call it that,
Mhm.
right? Ghana too is probably one of the oldest in terms of how long they've been in
Right.
democracy, where they've been a
1957.
consistent, peaceful exchange of power from one government to the other. It probably only Ghana. Mali, no. Even Guinea, even Benin. We talk about Benin. They've been stable for the past 20 years, but stability only came around the 1970, 73, 72, when they had their first transition from a military to a civilian and consistent until now. Prior
Mhm.
to that, it was one military coup d'etat after another and after another and after another. Same thing. Mali, it's back to back, sometimes two in 1 year, right? Sometimes two in 1 year.
Mhm.
So the kind of democracy that is being forced down the throats of African countries is something that is going to take time to get a foothold. The Africa has its way
Mhm.
of leading. In my
Good.
opinion, democracy
Fair.
is not an African concept,
Yeah.
and people cannot expect that Africa accepts and adapts to this concept in 60 years. 60 years is not a lot of time.
Yeah.
America has been a state for more than 300 and something years, or even
Yeah.
more. France has had a civilization that has gone 100 years back. The British has had a civilization that has gone 100 years
Yeah,
back.
but the pushback is this country did not all start as democracy. A lot of them had kings and queens and monarchies
They
and
have
military
fought,
rule.
they have fought their
They fought their
wars
war.
and multiple times. How many kings? How many of us?
Year
They've
of
done this.
Napoleon. Year of
What we are doing now is what they did 100 years back. They
right.
have fought and fought and fought and fought until they are where they are. Take America. They've been fighting. I mean, they've been fighting for a long time before they eventually got to where they are today. Still, it's not a perfect democracy.
Mhm.
I mean, when the women start voting in the United States, when the women start
About
voting,
100 years ago.
that is a long time. When did the African Americans start voting?
Yeah, maybe a little longer. They started voting before women started voting.
So what I'm saying is that they've had
They
time.
had their
They've
time
had
to yeah.
they've dealt with the chaos, and
Mhm.
now they're settling. You can't expect a child to start running before they crawl. They have to crawl,
Mhm.
and this is what Africa is doing. Africa is
Yeah,
crawling. They,
right.
they, they, they have a period of stability, and then they fall back. That is what they do, and then they try to build
Mhm.
again. That is
Yeah.
what they've always done.
So
What
if
do
I
I
understand
say?
your I'm sorry, if I understand your argument well, you're not saying we should discard democracy.
No,
You're just saying we are in the process of trying to figure out fighting the necessary battles, unpleasant as they may be, but they are
to figure
necessary
out
for us to
what
get a
works for
state.
us.
Yeah,
To figure
they
out
are
what
there.
works for us. And again,
Well,
you know, the West should know that the kind of democracy that is practiced in the United
mhm.
States
Right,
cannot be supplanted to Cameroon, for example,
right,
and expect to have the same systems. It's
right.
different. The kind of democracy that happens in Russia is not the kind of democracy that happens in France. The kind of democracy in France is different. It's democracy but adapted to suit
Yeah,
the culture and the people.
right.
That is what we need to know. That is what
Mhm.
the Western world needs to know. Don't force it on us. Let us take this concept that you've given us and adapt it to suit our own style. I'm not
Right.
saying that discard democracy, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of coup d'etats.
Right.
I've never been a fan of coup d'etats, and that's why you don't see me supporting coup d'etat in Cameroon, where I'm from. I
Yeah.
will not support a coup d'etat. I'm not a fan. I want let's find a way to transition peacefully in a semi or democratic manner
Right.
some general
Bloodshed. Yeah.
without bloodshed or some general thinking because at the end of the day, once this guy comes into power, he doesn't want to leave. When I mean,
Mhm.
go back and look. Traore, everybody saying Traore here, Traore there.
I
Has he
know.
given us a timeline as to when he's intending to transition from a military rule to a civilian rule? There's
Yeah.
no timeline, right? And to me, that is a problem.
Yeah.
Niger, the same thing. They don't give you a timeline because they don't intend to leave.
Yeah.
And that is where the problem is. And it's always sweet when it starts. When they come in, they are the perfect, but everybody is jubilant until they realize that hey, this military this authority is more authoritarian
Yeah.
than
Than the previous guy.
than the previous government, civilian
Yeah.
government that we had, right?
Right.
So we need to be careful when we go on sharing these coup d'etats. I'm not a fan.
Right.
I'm never going to support a coup d'etat. But when
Mm.
it happens, well, we have to. I mean, it's happened. There's nothing we can do about it. But to go cheering for a
Yeah.
coup d'etat to happen in a
Yeah.
state is not something that
Yeah.
I would want to do.
Right.
Fortunately, we've had coup d'etats happen which have been almost bloodless.
Yeah.
But most of the time, people fight for years, and thousands of civilians die. And
Yeah.
we have just been lucky that for some reason
Right.
they've been bloodless most of the time. Even
Mhm.
even even this failed coup d'etat that happened in Benin, people died, but not as a result of the
Yeah.
actual attempt. People died because Nigeria came in and started bombing, and that is how
Yeah.
again that is where the
Still
casualty
related
came
to
from,
that time.
right?
Yeah.
It's still related, but not this
Not because of
the
the coup
coup
d'etat.
plotters did not go around killing.
Right.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. Fair. That's
They
fair.
didn't go around killing people. They
Mhm.
did their thing. It was almost bloodless until Nigeria decided to intervene. So again,
Right.
I'm not a fan of coup d'etats. Would never
Right.
support it.
Yeah.
Because again, at the end of the
Mhm.
day, these coup d'etat, the military juntas are usually worse than the
Yeah,
civilian
was and
wars
civilians.
that
Yeah.
we had, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
that's
yeah,
my
great. Well, great assessment there. I think I agree with you for with your position in there. I think democracy is not something that we have to abandon. I'm not someone who cheers for coup d'etats. I'm not someone who's calling for coup d'etats. That's why I have a very mixed position on Ibrahim Traore. I mean,
Mhm,
he seems to be doing good things. Who are us to judge? That's the only thing we hear.
mhm,
You can make an argument that it's only propaganda you're getting from Burkina Faso,
mhm.
and kudos to him. He seems to be propelling the country forward, a lot of investment, but then he has concentrated power to himself too.
Exactly.
So he has he sees all the means of production
Right.
in the country. So it's a difficult one for me. I know that there's some good things that have come out of it, but in general, he came to power through a coup d'etat, and he has to solidify the country, the military in such a way that he will prevent another coup d'etat from happening, from
Of
taking him out
course.
of office.
Of course.
So he has not called an election. He has concentrated the power. In my opinion, there's a lot of propaganda that's coming out from that country.
Mhm. I
So it's
agree.
just a mix for me. I'm not jump on the bandwagon of Ibrahim Traore and be praising him like everyone is. But we'll see. I guess time is going to tell. Again, a good
But again,
assessment there.
I mean, Ghana is like we don't we failed or choose to not learn from history.
Yeah.
Tell me one leader who has come into power through a military coup d'etat and has voluntarily
Mm,
handed power over to a
power. Yeah.
civilian government.
Yeah. It doesn't happen.
I mean,
It's
voluntarily.
difficult. No,
I don't know any. I do not know
no.
any.
Yeah.
So
And how do you justify that with all the love that people like? And I don't know. Maybe I don't watch Burkinabe news, but I don't see a lot of Burkinabe news talking about him. I'm not used to a lot of Burkinabes out of the
But
country.
what do you expect to come out from
Of
Burkina
them, but
Faso?
so it's
What do
mostly
you
other
expect to come
Africans
out from a state where the military is in control? You think
control
they will just
media.
let
Let
the
you
journalists go out and
say
say
what you
what
want to say.
they want to say? No.
Yeah,
You think there's
no, no,
no media control? You think there's
yeah,
no there's you think there's free speech?
right.
So you mean that there's no one in Burkina Faso who is critical of Ibrahim Traore?
Of Ivan
No
Traore.
one.
And then all the videos that comes out of him is AI. It's some picture of AI, somebody explaining something in terms of
Most of it is
AI.
all
Like,
engineered. It's
okay,
all engineered.
it's all
It's
engineered.
all
So,
engineered. So yeah.
yeah. Again, I've not joined on that bandwagon. I'm very skeptical of what is coming out of that country. So, not to say he's not doing good things. He is doing good things, but yeah,
But
I'm not ready.
is it the ends justifying the is it the ends justifying the means?
I guess that's what a lot of
What
Africans,
is it?
a lot of people have been subjugated, maybe because of the economic situation, the corruption, and everything, and that they will take the devil that they know that risky to have democracy lead. But it is what it is. I'm not ready to jump on that bandwagon yet, and I'm sure you share that same
I've
level
been
of
very
difficulty.
skeptical.
Yeah,
I've been very skeptical on
of
people.
Ibrahim Traore. Yeah.
When you start praising people with and there's not even a single
Like what are your principles? On the one hand, you're fighting for democracy in other countries. On the other hand, you're praising someone who came to power by coup. Coup, by definition, is anti-democratic. It is a
exactly.
suspension of all constitutional rights. It is a suspension of all legal processes of a country. So you
And
can't
power
have
is
it both
centered
ways.
around him and
Around him,
his
and only
friends.
him. Yeah. You become judge, executioner, judge. What did you say? Judge and executioner, judge, judiciary, and executioner at the same time. So that's why I say a lot of people in Africa they say they're for freedom, they want freedom or whatever, but they secretly crave dictatorship.
Mhm.
Because if you are a fan of someone like Ibrahim Traore and you're thinking that his model should be replicated across African countries, you are in effect craving dictatorship.
Mhm.
You're in effect craving control, craving the lack of dissenting voices in a
Mhm.
democracy, craving the lack of a free press, craving the lack of open debate.
Mhm.
Because when the military rules, they have all the weapons on their side. They
They
have all
have
the
all the
guns. They have all
power.
the bullets.
They have,
So they know how to deal with you swiftly and
of course.
unknowingly. Yeah. So if you think the modern in Burkina Faso is something that should be replicated elsewhere, and that is what you're craving, okay? You're not craving for freedom. You're craving from extreme military control. So
And
it's not
I
something
think we've had just to connect, we've had conversations about in terms of Nigeria's role in
in
stopping or
the Burkina Faso.
managing the attempted coup in Benin. And I
Yeah.
know that I have been critical of Nigeria. Again, not
Right.
critical because they contributed
Yeah.
in stopping a coup d'etat,
Hmm.
but just because they are so quick to react
When they
in
have
someone
issues.
else's country while they have serious
Yeah.
issues
Ongoing. Yeah.
happening in their country. That is my critique of
Yeah.
Nigeria.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, why not?
I think again, yeah, we've had this
Yeah, like you said.
conversation.
Sorry, go ahead, please.
My pushback to you is, and I know Nigeria has a lot of problems. Like
Yes.
no one is going to deny that they do have a lot of problems, and it is a bad look that you have a lot of problems, but you are willing to come out as big brother and flex your muscles in other countries.
Hmm.
But I think they do have a responsibility to ECOWAS. They owe it to their member states as the military might of that region.
Hmm.
They wants to put people to order because again they remain one of the strongest country in that particular economic
Yeah, yeah. Region.
region. So and I clearly see, and I think it's a bad look with the kidnapping of students, young girls, young boys in Nigeria, the rampant kidnappings from schools and stuff like that, the terror insurgency from Boko Haram, from everything. It is a bad look. But again, they have a responsibility to their ECOWAS state. Otherwise, what is the reason for an economic community? What is the reason for ECOWAS if you cannot intervene when a member state needs you, and particularly when you are invited by the government of that member state that you recognize? I don't know what Nigeria's answer would have been to Benin's president. It's like, oh, we have 200 girls in the bush that were waiting for the release, so we can't send the military. I mean, how many military did they send? How many planes? Maybe a few military on the ground. And by the way, it's not just Nigeria that's on the ground. I mean, they did have the military might, they did send area support, but you have military on the ground from Cote d'Ivoire, from Sierra Leone,
from
from
Ghana, I think.
Togo, from Ghana. So all these countries have a commitment to their member states. They are within their right, particularly on the invitation of the country in trouble, the president of the country in trouble. So um, um, a bad look, yes, but priorities are priorities. I know we argue, our main argument is where does your priority lie? I think
Mhm.
you can have a fight in your house and still have love and help for your neighbor. That's how I'll put it, basically.
I mean, for me, it's misplaced priorities.
It is
I don't
misplaced.
know that a successful coup d'état in Benin would have jeopardized Nigeria's position in the region. I don't know that
Right.
it would have affected Nigeria in any way other than the fact that there's just someone else in power.
Yeah.
Again, fortunately for them, Benin is a tiny little country.
It's a tiny
It's
little
a
country.
tiny
Yeah.
little strip of land between
Mhm.
Nigeria and Togo and the other ECOWAS bloc, right?
Yeah.
So it was easier for Nigeria to scramble jets and to act very quickly.
Hmm.
Um, when Burkina Faso and Niger and Sudan had
Hmm.
their thing, there was a lot of
Right.
hesitation in terms of should we go in, and if we do go in, how do we expect
Right.
to manage three large, because if you look at the map, Burkina Faso, Niger, and
They are very big countries compared
they're
to Benin.
very massive countries compared to Benin, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like Nigeria saw the firstborn
Right.
fighting the last, going to discipline the last born son. The disparity is so
I
great.
mean, that's it.
It was for me, it was
For
it
you, it
was
was, yeah.
like low
Yeah.
hanging fruit. It was, for me, it was like low hanging fruit. Nigeria saw an
You know,
advantage.
I see, I
We want to
see your
flex our
point.
muscles, and so we'll just go and deal with it.
Fair.
Again, you think that if the president, if the president of Burkina Faso, who was, you think if he had called Nigeria, they would have acted this swiftly? No, they wouldn't have.
I don't know. I don't know.
They
I
wouldn't
don't
have.
know.
No,
Yeah.
it's not that you don't know. They wouldn't have, because they did. ECOWAS contemplated sending forces. You remember that,
To
right?
Burkina Faso,
To
right? Oh,
Burkina
that's
Faso,
true.
they
Yeah.
contemplated sending forces, and
Yeah.
eventually they're like, no, we can't start a war. It would just be a war. It will
Yeah.
not be
Yeah.
us going into to stop a military coup d'etat. It will be us fighting a nation, because by then Traore had amassed power. The
Oh, yes.
people seem to have
He had a huge
fallen for
control of
him,
the military. Yeah.
and then he had control of the entire military. Because in
Yeah.
this case,
And he did one. Yeah.
these coup plotters did not have control of the
No.
entire military. They did not even have the president in question in
Hmm. Hmm.
captivity. They did not have key ministers in captivity. That is how a coup d'etat happens. If you don't secure the president, you don't have a coup d'etat.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
The,
true.
the
Well,
president
I
cannot be
I'm
running
sorry.
out making statements while you are claiming that no.
Yeah, claiming you
Without
won.
the
You
president in
got a
your
coup
in your
d'etat.
in your custody, it doesn't work. And I think that's
No.
how would you reach out to Nigeria to call and say we need we
Yeah.
need your support, because he
Yeah.
was he was free out
It
there
was where
making the
see you
calls
see
and
it.
talking to people, right? So
Right.
again, Nigeria did what it did. For me, it was, yeah, low
Yeah.
hanging
Well,
fruit.
I hear you. I guess my main pushback. We kind of suggested that there's a correlation between the presence of terror in this region and this company and this country's been former French colonies,
Right.
and then the religious aspect of most of them being Muslim countries. And I think you and I would we agree that there's some level of French influence still in that region.
Agreed.
Um,
Yes.
I, I think my um, gratefulness of or my not seeing a problem with Nigeria intervening is that at least an African country is gaining strategic position in that region, where they understand the region more than the French government, who has been there for decades and still have recurring coup d'états. So I would rather have Nigeria have regional influence than France have regional influence in that region. So from a strategic point of view, I would like an African country that has a military might and the intelligent know-how to be able to thwart such an uprising or a coup in another African country, rather than having them call on France, which still has military bases. And I think and French involvement was still there because they said they were French planes. They were mostly doing surveillance and gathering intelligence. They were not involved in bombing. But then, how do you square?
Isn't this what they do all the time?
Well, again, yeah, which is the point I'm trying to.
They find a willing participant, and then they provide them with the ammunition and the technology and the surveillance and the observation
Right.
and the intelligence to go do their dirty work. They did the same thing in.
But
That's
that
what
okay.
they've always
Let me
done.
laugh.
It's not. We cannot claim that Nigeria acted independently. There is an alleged phone call from Macron to
Right.
Tinubu
Right.
before Nigeria started acting.
Right. Mhm.
What do you think that
Well,
phone call was all about?
but that's fine. I guess
Let's not speak as if this was an independent action from
wait,
Nigeria.
let me
You
put my
understand?
pushback to you. My pushback is to you is would you rather have Nigeria have influence in that region or the continuance of French influence in that region? Because Nigeria seems to be the superpower now. At least they have grown in that big brother role. For me, I think that's a good thing. And I think eventually this country should be able to grow in a way that they can manage their internal affairs.
If Nigeria acted on their own,
But
I would
that's what the president
listen.
said.
No. That's what else would he have said? That
Who?
we were
No, I mean
directed.
the president of Benin. He said he
Well,
invited
what did you want
Nigeria.
him to say? They're already accusing him of affiliations with France, and you want him to come out and say, "Oh, France help Nigeria, help us with." There's no way he
Well,
was going to say
he
that.
could have said I invited France too. You know?
Why would he? Why would you? One of the reasons why they attempted to kick him out was because of his connection with the French. So why
Yeah.
would he come out again and say, "Oh, the French came to my assistance"? It would prove. It would just go now to prove the argument, right? So what did he do? He called Nigeria. Well, he called Nigeria. They called France. They had a conversation. France said, "Okay, you send your pilots. I will tell you. I would survey and I will tell you where these people are. But you are going to drop the bombs."
Right.
That's what they've always done. That is
Yeah.
what America does with the Ukraine and Russia. They
Yeah.
don't come there and drop the bombs, but they provide you with the means of dropping the bombs, right? So at the end of the day, you
But at least Nigeria has the means. At
not
least Nigeria has grown to have the means.
act independently. Did not act independently.
But regardless, they have a responsibility to ECOWAS. They were invited by the president of Benin. They have the means. At least you can say they acted in coalition or in coordinates with the French. Fair, but
Those bombs,
they did act.
again, the bombs that they dropped dropped in Cotonou. Those bombs cannot be dropped in the Zambisa forest or on Boko Haram.
I know, I
That
know.
is what
That's why I said it's a bad
that
look.
is my frustration. That is
Yeah.
my frustration. France is providing surveillance, observation, and logistics. That is what France did. Logistics means we give you material to go use. That is what logistics is. Why had they
Well, we
not
don't know that
provided?
this is.
Well, I mean, come on, we are speaking
No, but we know that Nigerian
logistics
planes
does
were
not
there
mean anything else
and they carried
other than
bombing.
that.
No, but we know that Nigerian planes were there and they did carry a bombing. So my main worry is will I have rather have France do that or Nigeria? I
I'd
was
rather
happy
they
that
just
another
come out
African.
and do it so we know they did than going through a test. Because now me and you are having an argument about the French involvement because they went through Nigeria. So it seems They were
No. You are trying to say me. I'm saying Nigeria could have said no, but Nigeria say we need to help a member state, and we are also acting on our own accord. So we can go. Nigeria would have said we don't want to risk. We have more problems, but they took the role. They stepped up and they helped to at least. And by the way, we are only saying this, but the Benin military did do a lot. So Nigeria and France really came out at the back end, to finally disperse the disgruntled soldiers. But regardless, they did fill up a shoe that I'm proud to say another African country did. So I think we should give credit to
yeah.
Nigeria too.
To me, it's a disgrace that Nigeria will act under French influence. To me, that is
But
unacceptable.
regardless, you're
It's
going to
not
act
just,
under influence. Did they
it's not
act
just
under the
French.
influence of the president of Benin? They did act under the influence of the president of Benin because he
He is a
invited them
president
too.
and an affiliate of the French. So what's the
Does it
difference,
matter?
Ghana? It matters. It does matter. Yeah, it does.
Well, everybody's going to be a puppet or an affiliate of somebody. You just said that people are switching allegiance from France to Russia. So
Right.
there's still going to be a puppet of that. Or
No, no.
will you?
The relationships. I mean, you can dispute this, but I think the relationship that African states are forming with Russia or China is different.
It's still going to be a puppet.
No, no, it's completely different. It's
Why? Why
not.
is it different?
Speak to anyone who they will tell you it's different.
So you.
It's not a master servant relationship. It's more a partnership that happens
Mhm, mhm,
in this relationship. That would be my argument. That the relationship that you form with someone is different from
mhm,
a relationship that you're born into,
mhm,
where you gain your independence, stands to me, and I am going to take this, and you're going to give me this.
yes.
It's a master servant relationship.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Russia is just acting this out of their own good will. They have their own interests
They
too.
have an interest. Everybody has an interest, Ghana.
So.
Everybody has an interest. But the point I'm making is this: I might have an interest, but I am not going to treat you as a subordinate.
Mhm.
We are going to have an open
Mutual respect.
relationship, mutual respectful relationship, where I respect your interest and you respect mine, where I take what I need from you and I pay fair
And you
price.
take what you need from mine.
And then you take what you need from me and pay fair price. Yes, I'll take
Mhm,
uranium and whatever it is that you have, I pay you at market price. I'll not pay you 5% or 1% like the French
mhm,
demand, right? I'll pay you market price for what you're asking for. And if you want weapons, if you want technology, if you want this, if you want it, I will sell it to you at market
mhm,
price as well. That is
mhm,
the kind of relationship that I'm talking about. That is the kind of relationship African states need to look for.
mhm, mhm.
That is the kind of
Well, and I think it's fair that people should go out
mutual
and
benefits.
shop around and whatever. But at the end of the day, you are not tied to a particular person. If somebody's abusing you and you continue to stay in that relationship, the onus is also on you. So good for the African countries for going to look out. But we cannot only say these things one-sided. These people are also willing participants because they know what they're gaining. And I think there's a failure on the part of African leaders to be able to explain what their relationship is with France and why it's so difficult for them to ditch that relationship. Okay, so it's not the gun that has been put in their head that you must trade with France at a very
No, France
disadvantaged
help them
way.
stay in power, and then they do whatever the
Why?
French want.
Yeah. So they should explain us why. If France is helping you, you should tell us why France. And France did not force to help you. France is not forcing these countries to be able to keep their money in the reserve in French bank reserves.
It's
No,
a trap. Have
they
you have you have you tried with taking your money out of there?
there are consequences. Of course, there are
Yes, also
consequences. They take it out.
see, it's a trap. When you put somebody in a trap, right? You can't just
Uh,
say, "Man, get out of this trap." No, there are consequences to that.
but
See what happened to Gaddafi. You
mhm,
think Gaddafi's situation is just because they didn't? No, it was because he started making moves that they didn't like. He started talking
mhm,
about an African currency. He started talking
mhm,
about putting a currency that's backed by gold. He started talking about let's bring our gold to us. He
mhm,
started talking about putting satellites in space. Africa, nobody wants that. This is you breaking free from the trap that they've put you in,
mhm, mhm.
and they will not let you do that. They will not let you do that.
Yeah. my point is, if any relationship you have with anybody, and I think people should be free to have relations with anybody, but you should be able to explain to your people what are the pros and cons of this relationship I'm having to people.
Yeah.
Okay, because at the end of the day, it might be just be switching one puppet master to another puppet master, because everybody's out for their own interest. Maybe
I mean,
Nigeria may be the next puppet master.
the argument as I always make is this: France has been there as a colonial master. They
Right,
have been there under neo-colonialism. They have held the strings for so long. What have we gained from them?
exactly. Well,
Nothing.
that's true.
Let's
That's
try a new puppet master.
yeah,
I don't
fair.
care if because again, at the end of the day, the French, the Russians, and the Chinese are helping build Africa. They might have opportunities to exploit, but yes, we are benefiting to a large extent. Go to Cameroon and see the health, the hospitals that the Chinese
Yeah,
have built. Go and see the roads that they've constructed. Go, I mean, at the African Union building,
yeah,
built and paid for by the Chinese.
yeah,
Yes, they might have advantages, but you can see what they're doing. What have the French done? What have they
yeah,
built for Africa? No roads. They left. It's basically extracting. They know how to extract. That's all they know how to do. What did they leave us? At least
yeah.
you can see what the French, the Chinese are doing.
What are
At
doing?
least you
Yeah,
can see what the Russians are doing. At least you can see what the Turkish are doing. Because Turkey too, for those who do not know, Turkey too has a lot of influence in Africa. A lot of influence.
they have a growing influence.
They have
That's
growing influence. India too is finding is building relationships in Africa as well. But
mhm.
you can see what they are doing business wise, constructions, infrastructure, loans. You don't have to go to the IMF every time.
Yeah,
You can go to Russia or China or Turkey and get a loan at way cheaper cost
yeah,
than you will get from the IMF or the World Bank. We can see these tangible results. They call them puppet masters. I don't care. I can see what they are doing for us. And for to me,
hmm,
that is what is important.
okay. Yeah,
We
fair.
we
Make a
we
good
derail.
point.
We derail. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think we've been going for quite a bit.
an hour. We've been going for an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've talked about the Nigerian connection. We've talked about the French connection. I'm not sure if there was something else that we wanted to.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Mm, yeah, I
Okay.
got to work
So,
tomorrow.
what
Yeah.
do you think this is it in terms of
I think
Benin?
the
In
efforts
terms of
it's been
Benin, you
yeah, I
think
think
this?
I think it's been quelled. The Benin military did quite a bit. The guys have fled the country. I think they are safe now. The president is back. He had a cabinet meeting the other day.
Right.
So I don't see anything else happening in the nearest future. I'm hoping they remain a stable um, um, country politically and they're able to have the elections next year and have a democratically elected leader. And like we all agree, coup d'etats are not something that we should be praising or wanting to happen in parts of Africa. So my hope is that the country remains peaceful and they can have the election next year.
Uh, why do you think? Why do you think Nigeria should first of all
Mhm.
should Nigeria be worried about trend happening around them, and
Yeah.
why do you think they should?
Nigeria as a country, I don't think so that they should be that worried. I think they have a pretty robust democratic process in Nigeria. They have other problems. I think their main problem is insecurity. But I don't see a coup d'etat succeeding in Nigeria. Um, um, Mainly one reason they don't have that French influence, and also the Christians and non-Muslims have a majority. They have problems with insecurity. I think that's the main issue.
Mhm.
But politically, I think they are very much stable. They have been changing presidents every 4 years, 8 years for people who have two terms. They have successfully done that since the 90s. So I don't see that changing in the nearest future.
Um, well, I agree, even though I feel like um, with everything that's going on,
Yeah.
because minus the French connection,
Hmm.
everything else applies to Nigeria.
Right.
Everything else, the circumstances which we talked
Hmm.
about in this
Yeah.
other part, it technically applies to Nigeria. We have
Hmm.
a Nigerian government that is as corrupt as any government that you can think of. It's a very
Yeah.
corrupt political system.
Hmm.
We have, the Boko Haram and the Islamist groups that are attacking from the north. And just so you know, Nigeria is defending the territorial integrity of another country while their territory has the parts of Nigeria that are under the control of a terrorist group,
Yeah.
right? So if this keep going, and with once in a while you would hear the military making disgruntled statements, and again it starts small. They're either saying we don't get enough resources, they're either saying we don't get enough recognition, they're either saying the government
Hmm.
isn't paying attention to what is happening or to what we are dealing with. Eventually some general or some colonel or some military,
Yeah. Yeah.
some presidential guards decides that we're done with the democracy that isn't really doing much for us, and that we need to go back to a military rule even for a period of time. I feel like Nigeria needs to be worried, a lot more
Hmm.
worried than they seem to be now,
Hmm.
because they are surrounded by countries who have had successful military coup d'etats.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that they should be
Hmm.
worried about what might happen next.
Might happen.
Um,
Yeah.
that is my opinion, and I think that is why Nigeria was very quick to deal with this situation.
Right. Yeah.
Because if this situation happened, then they would have been surrounded by countries who have had a coup d'etat. And
Hmm.
again, we've talked about this copycat um 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 um
Mentality.
yeah, where something happens here, it happened in Mali, it happened in Guinea, it happened in Burkina Faso, it happened in Chad, it happened
Hmm.
in Niger. Guinea Bissau has done it, Benin has tried, even though they have failed, but at least they tried.
Yeah.
What are the chances that some general doesn't sit in his office and say, it's happened everywhere,
Yeah.
why don't we do it here as well?
Yeah.
Right? Because again, so I think Nigeria should be worried, a lot more worried
Yeah.
than they are now,
Hmm.
because the circumstances in these other parts of the world, in these other parts of ECOWAS, is not very different from the situation that's going on in Nigeria, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Right. So
Okay.
that's what I think. Hopefully this is the last,
Yeah.
but who knows, right?
Who
Who
knows? Yeah.
knows? Yeah. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you for watching. Again, we do apologize for
Technical
the
issues.
technical issues that we incurred a little while ago in the middle of our show, when conversations were kind of getting heated. Um, things beyond my
Heated.
control.
We never get heated.
Yeah, yeah, things beyond my control. Again, just like I was saying with you, Ghana, we do agree on a lot, but we do have
Yeah.
disagreements. There's
Yeah.
there's
Absolutely.
there's hardly a show where we just come here and do 100%. I agree, you agree,
At
we
least
agree.
we're better off than Mimi Mefro and that gang.
We are better off than most of the people out there
Right.
agreeing on every little thing.
Oh, that's too.
Anyway, thank you very much, guys. Please like, share if you enjoyed the show. Comments in the comment section, we would react to them as we always do. And if you ever feel like you have a conversation that you want to have with us, please let us know. We would find a time, bring you in, and then have a conversation of your interest. It doesn't have to be something that we put to you, right? So we are definitely open to that, especially world politics. We would like to have other voices
Yeah.
join our conversation. So thank you, guys. We will see you again shortly. Yeah, bye.